Okay, remember, I'm trying to keep the Scout Keeper in mind today, but Salty, you got to be on the board. Pretend to be Bones hiding in the bush behind the headstone or whatever, playing Conquest, right? Prometheus. All right, so good. Now that we got that established, what is energy? What is energy in here? We're going to cheat a little bit on Fermilab Guy. First thing I need you to understand is being that we're going to line up the market inside of here. Did you really know the contract? Did you know really Kathy Woods had a lot of bit? Is it bit? Is it tether? Or is it Luna being the differential of their stability given the constitution, the photon of the piece of paper, what helps you describe what energy is? See, he is also a scientific researcher, not just a YouTuber about what the demonstration is here. They're a bit different in terms of what the photon may represent with some doctor in a suit giving a commercial for the sour bitter pill you're about to get, right? Come on, surprise you. We're going to cheat. Damn right we're going to cheat. What is energy? I'm about to show you. So, keep in mind, again, you may not know. Twitter, you got to do some research element, crack the exponential idol, get in there with the world clock on this, because that's actually a program. Seems like cheating. And it's like, but Sarge, and I know then they get old and turn into Putin into all this about what energy looks like for the photon, gluons, and what have you. But again, what is energy? This is a photon, this whole thing, doing work in a time-dilated polarizing system that could have alternating divergent flows in a multi-world and Heisenberg uncertain way. We're changing how apples are energy, or why the photon of that has very specific fixed energy, kinetically, potential, thermal, electrical, chemical, nuclear, and etc. That's its apples, not just of apples, but megaparsecs about Hubble's tensor inside here. Gives it why, if in a test, inverted, we put it in this like Glitron to see what happens, and the outputs are very commonly over a lot. A palette, a single cell sample, or whatever variable on that. Don't forget the baby bathtub and water also falls to that problem as well, but it might get cast out on the ripples of the pond. That's the energy. Remember, it wasn't some heat, light, and squeaky.
Lifting an object against gravity.
Lifting an object. So this object lifting special relativity. This ping pong ball.
If you let it go.
Right here. Kinetic. If ping pong ball. X is not a ping pong ball, but it moved. So we change that field. That's a delta. That's somebody who could take the X in that manner and change it so that it does. And it's not quite neo-special about OP briefs being an inversion of Penrose's twistor theory. Mathematically, though, you still have to kind of cover the index. Now, I don't mind some of the expansion in space. Anton's a good guy. Studying science is both useful and interesting in that way, isn't it? It's got the double negative, damn near the devil in the details and the gravity, huh? What is FMA all day?
Champion something closer.
And there are many great names, and I don't know them all, but that's going to change in the subject. And not only are they going to work in there, but they're going to collide. They're going to say, oh man, Newton and Hodges getting in it about FMA and the bookkeeper, and Poncure is going to say FMA all day, not once, or FMA not once all day at the water cooler about, well, it adds up, has nothing to do with numbers. I walk over there and I touch the button, I figured it out. And in the way that EV, I could look at you on the overhead angle, I could say, well, the working joules of that in changing an epsilon instead of a delta, an Euler or a lambda, a Fermilab guy. You know, you're wearing the crimson of the Spartans there. After Space Marine works it all out about how to file it into the ranks, which is 2.1 mega electron volts, blinkety winkities and the ups and downs, or whether the kids get it or not, right? You know, what are they doing? You know, there's nothing wrong with this. I'm fixing my hair. I got an itch. Itches happen. Humans itch. You know, don't come up with it. What is that? Photon, gluon. So what happened there? Now, that field is going to give you some charges. Real simple, it always starts 0 and 1. Now, 0 and 1 could be any instance that you determine for that. This is a fist fight right here. Math is a fist fight.
Notice
But
why
we're
energy
arguing
fields
jujitsu
originally
here,
pretty
cross-collar
mysterious.
choke
It only became
against
clear when
corks.
German mathematician Emmy Noether
Fist fight,
realized
the
something
cork would be
enormously
some
profound
variable or
about the
footing
universe.
where it
She
radically
realized that
changes the
conservation
FMA
laws
how the
were a
lineup
consequence of
works.
symmetry
Let's do this again
in
at
the laws
bar
of
at the
nature.
bar. Let's take the
The laws of
photon of the
nature
overhead of the bar and break
changing
down standard
over time,
models.
and I mean
What do we got? We got
deeply
not what
fundamental
FMA
laws
would
of
be
nature.
in
Then
Hubble's
energy
tensor,
can be conserved.
but you
That
got
is to say,
Riemann's tensor
unchangeable.
given the
She also
Christopherson
showed
symbol,
that
the
if the laws
Ricci
didn't change
tensor
with
on this
location,
thing as soon as
then
you walk
momentum
into there
would
and
be
catch one of those
conserved.
cosmic
Topic for
threads that
another
just
time.
pops it off.
And I made an entire video about Emmy Noether, which you can watch if you're interested. I put a link to it in the description.
And
below.
again, you know what? When you track a water
So I
bottle, a
told you that
photon
this
through
is
water,
his
we're not just
definition of
tracking a
energy.
light
I gave
beam it's
you a rough
on. It's not
definition of
gonna
what kinetic
light
and
doesn't
potential
work that way.
energy
It's burning
are.
through a
And I
tungsten
ended up
filament or an
telling you
LED or
why
what have you.
energy
It's a
is conserved.
constant
Is
beam.
that
But
it?
if you
I'm done.
understand why
Well, not yet.
the causal speed
For
of
one
light
thing,
likes that,
so
you get a
far what I've
high-speed
talked
camera
about are
on
objects
cells,
with
and in a
mass.
pulse width
It's
of
not only
that
massive objects
bandwidth,
that have
the
energy.
causal nature, in
Massless
all of their
photons
cells,
also
you
carry
could
energy.
slow speed that thing
Photons
through a
are
water
moving
bottle. It's a bit of a
ripples in
cheat,
electromagnetic fields.
but it
Those
shows
moving
the
fields
experimental
have to be
criteria
added to
of
those
that. And
objects
guess what
with
else
energy.
is useful and interesting about
And,
that
of course,
Heisenberg
Einstein showed that
Sentinel
mass and
push?
energy were
When I
equivalent
slow
to
down
unity.
soldiers
You can
pushing
choose
for the
one to
PT
the other
test and
back again.
NP, more is less,
That
less
doesn't
is
make
more,
much
dope
sense
and
from a
chips.
classical point of
You're
view.
thinking about a
After all,
crucible
a
time frame, an
stationary and mass
area
object in
of
outer
the
space,
universe
far
where
from
the
all
mathematics
gravitational
doesn't
fields
necessarily
and mass,
correlate
but it is
directly
moving.
to 63
So,
or
for
73,
example,
well,
it is
73
neither
parsec
kinetic
right now
nor
seems to be a
potential
much more
energy, but it does have
accurate
mass.
value,
If
63 point
mass
something,
is
or 73
energy,
point
then
something.
something isn't making sense.
But when you're in the
Energy
market,
present
those
without
numbers,
kinetic
I need
or
two
potential
2x2s
energy
out the
being
door
present.
with 3 long, or yeah,
The situation
2
was
shorts, 1
resolved
long,
deeply
and
into
there's
the fundamental
14
nature
of them,
mass.
plus an order of
When you
8
do
footers
that,
that go with
you
the
find
thing.
that ordinary
You would
mass
know
is
1,
located in the
1,
mass of
1,
protons
1,
and
1, and
neutrons.
if I
And
got
you
there,
look
it would
at
be
where their
0
mass
because the
comes from.
situational
It comes
model
from
of
the
those
motion and forces
orientations wouldn't
governing
necessarily be
nearly
correct.
massless objects
Still
like
X,
protons and neutrons.
but not being
Indeed, the
9.8
nuclei
X's
that
over
make up
here.
each and every one of us
Andromeda,
are tiny vortices,
Mars,
subatomic
9.8,
tempests of
jump,
moving
moon,
and nearly massless
atmosphere,
particles
oxygen
held
in a
under
stable
strong
way I
forces.
like, or having
I
to
made an
then
entire
look
video
at
that
Mars
goes into
and
this.
adjust the
Again,
pressure
links
accordingly.
in the
Because if it was
description.
on Earth,
If
where you
mass
were
is
under the
just
Mariana
energy
Trench and you
swirling
didn't
in a
get that
single
right,
location
what did you get?
with
The
a swirling
bends.
energy not
Bubbles
moving,
in the
basically
energy,
in a
which make
stationary
0
tornado,
dead
then we're back to the
energy.
definition of kinetic and potential energy. That swirling thing isn't a perfect description, but it's a reasonable mental image and good enough to get a rough idea.
So again, you know, when we're running some of
Entire
this,
story.
we are looking
Energy
for
is
mathematically a way to
forces,
take.
and it's unchanging, sloshing into this
If
form and that.
I were just watching it,
It's
if I
somewhat
didn't have
analogous to how the
compromisation,
atoms
or
of the universe can
you were
change
classrooms
form,
and this was
like
a
how
shaking
dirt
hands with
becomes
danger
grass,
video
becomes a cow, becomes a
about
person, which becomes dust in the cycle of
about.
There's one
see if I get it
final
here.
twist to the whole thing. While energy is often
Twist,
said
they
to
say.
be conserved because of Noether's insights
Conserved.
about the
Remember,
symmetry
very
and laws of
generalized
nature,
here, right?
energy
Very
conservation
generalized.
isn't
We are cutting this
100%
down
true.
to
The universe
the
is
operation may
expanding,
be able
and
to
it's
do,
filled
but you're
with
not
a field
actually
of
there. This is
constant
not the
energy
video of me doing this
Constant
operation. These are just
density
snaps
and expanding
cells
volume
of what
means that the energy of that
energy
form,
looks like.
which
So
is
back to
called dark
that
energy, by the way. That energy
300
is
IQ
increasing.
skid steer
In an
checklist,
expanding
or
universe,
why
energy
in
is
this
conserved.
environment
Furthermore,
they
when you
work
talk
different.
about
It's
the
like
fact
in
that
this site I
galaxies
was
look
not the
redder
mechanic.
than they
That
should
is
because of the expansion
over
of space,
here.
that
Right,
is a consequence.
very different
the
timelines
amount of
comparatively to
energy
pick and
carried
rock
by
over
light
here
depends
or
on
a
the color
dumping
of light.
operation.
The
It
redder light
always
has more
follows
energy.
that no matter which way
Thus,
you
it
come
appears
from,
that photons of
there's an
light from
operation to
distant
it.
galaxies
So
have less
commonly,
energy than they
a
did
drive
when it was
time to
emitted.
losing
This
it on
implies
the
that
evaluations
cosmological
to
situations with a
your
changing
overall cut
shape of
coefficient.
space-time.
Well, they all go in
Energy
different
is
places
also
if
not
they're
conserved.
farther away.
And this is a
Minor,
universal
right?
truth.
Very minor. I don't
General
need it to
relativity,
be
in
super
which the
precise
size and
beyond
geometry
Hubble's
of
tensor
space
here,
and
or
time run
Ricci's
change.
tensor,
Energy
or
isn't
the
necessarily
Christopherson
conserved.
symbol for
You
Alice
see,
and Bob
Noether's
here, golden
insight
ratio in
relied
this
on the
case,
mathematics
about
of
mods
unchanging
and
space
periods and
At least that condition
costs
in Emmy's
and
mathematics no
thetas,
longer
what
applies.
have you, some trig.
The lack
Figure
of
4.
conservation of energy in general relativity is a complicated one. Probably worth a video.
But remember, the reality is going to be this video right here, or several videos where I'm indexing the skid steer safety checklist. Not just that, but this in this site is ipso facto connected. These have very specific ratings, right? You don't weld anything to it. You don't 36 inches, 20-something inches against those forks before the plasticity of a tooled steel fork like that stabs Larry right in the... Or anybody else that's supposed to do it correctly
endless states,
well,
changing identity,
taking that out
never changing the amount,
and
forced to be the same
putting
by
it
the
in a
mathematical
more
structure of the
applicable way, change.
That is, unless you're talking
Here,
about
the value
universe
is
as a whole,
just
and
X,
there,
right?
Conservation is a more complicated thing,
Covered in
requiring
snow.
that you revisit the
Here,
need for
however,
energy.
this has a very specific
From one
energy
point of
traveling
view,
down the
energy
pipe,
is
even though it
terribly
may be
complicated, while
still
from another,
abrupt,
it's
right? You know,
breathtakingly
there's
simple.
if
It's a delightful,
aggregated,
distant topic with
if
layers upon layers, and always
homogenized or an aggregate, right?
Okay, so
They
that
would
was
be
an
their
incredible
standard
topic
models.
with many different
But it would still
levels of
give me a top and a bottom.
If you
The
enjoyed
value
the
of
video,
3-footers
please
or
like, subscribe,
8-footers or
and
something
keep
in
on
there
thinking
still
about
has to
energy,
be what
which
is
one
in
of
the
the
pipes
deepest and most
on the
fundamental
pack
topics of modern physics.
in order to bury
saying
this
a lot
thing.
because,
Catch
well,
that
as you know,
mythic
physics
Snorlax
is
or blue in there. You know what I mean? So that's my number. Catch you on the next one.